That was me. Are we? Welcome back, everybody, to episode 208. I am Ty Backer, your host of Behind the Tool Belt. Stay tuned for these awesome ass intros that we have.
TC Backer. Roofing, siding, windows, gutter, solar. Roofing, siding, windows, gutter, solar. TC Backer.
Is your lead flow down? Whether you're a company owner, office staff, salesperson, or installer, you're a roofing rock star. We help you get more leads with custom SEO, Google Ads, and a pro website.
TC Backer.
Welcome back, everybody, to our our Christmas special with Tim Brown, my good friend Tim Brown, and we're trying something a little bit different today. We're going to try to start doing them at noon, I believe, for multiple reasons, and some of them may be discussed later with some of the changes that we do personally and professionally through the course of our life, I guess, but most importantly, I guess, with the topic of today, which I'm sure we're going to talk about, like the new year, the new me, and the new goals, and all those things that we plan on doing for 2024. But Tim Brown, my friend, how the hell are you?
Doing really good, man. Thank you for having me. I always appreciate being on, and I love your show.
Thank you. Thank you. We love the fact that you have been a loyal, not just listener and subscriber, but also are one of our main sponsors. So we thank you for that and all the support and love and likes and follows and shares that you've continuously over the past 4 years have helped us with. So thank you for the growth of Behind the Tool Belt.
Absolutely. And I mean, like, question for you real quick, behind the scenes here. How do you find time to do all this content? You run a ridiculously successful construction business that's well respected in the industry, and you help a lot of homeowners and families with their stuff. How do you find time to also do this? I know that, like, it's a hack if you just work at 6, but you're in the middle of the business day right now. I'm guessing like there's a couple fires going on. There always is as a business owner. How do you do this?
I'm a good juggler. I've learned how to juggle at a very young age. I actually used to travel with a circus. No, I'm just kidding. No, that's a great question, and kind of why we're doing it now at 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 11 a.m. over Central Time. is because of the workflow. We feel like it's going to fit in better to the workflow. Our Wednesdays have been held hostage for 4 straight years. Like every single night, Wednesday evening was behind the tool belt. So not only has my personal and professional life struggled because of it, or not really struggled because we've enjoyed it, but our families, right? Like our
Yeah.
families' lives have been put on hold every single Wednesday night, hell or high water, and religiously. I mean, on our honeymoon, the day that we got married, vacations, funerals, all of that stuff, the show must go on. So we kind of thought it would be better because, and first and foremost, is the bandwidth, right? Like we only have so many calories to burn in a day, in a week, in a month's time, right? And it's like, by the time I catch my fifth win, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Wednesday evenings, I'm not saying it's become um, monotonous or redundant. It or takes a toll on a human, but it's kind of like I want to be fresh. We want to kick out better content. Like you mentioned, content. How do we find time? Well, we schedule it. We put it on our calendar every week at what time that we're going to do it. And I know for me personally, when I need to shut things down and change gears over here, and that's played a big, huge, crucial role in producing content week after week after week after week. But not just that. Most importantly, I think about 3 years ago, Vic came on and had found a love and passion. He's a musician by trade. Not only that, but also security systems and alarms and stuff like that was his forte and his background. So he's very tech savvy. So he found his niche within TC Backer family of kind of just, hey man, what are you guys doing on Wednesday night? So he started hanging out, and then we started to get more equipment and stuff. And as the equipment came in, he would do his due diligence to figure out how to master that equipment, whether it's Rodecaster Pro, whether it's MacBooks, whether it's A10, whether it's Blackmagic cameras, Sony cameras, Lumix cameras. Like he has become a little more than just dangerous. He's become, starting to master it. But then on top of that, he's been able to master, kicking out the content before, whether it's, advertising the show, hey, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and or who's coming on the show. But then also kicking out content and reels and stuff after the show. So that's become his full-time job. So we've called him our AV engineer. He's director of AV. So that's really helped.
No, totally. But like, isn't it crazy how content creation it is a job, right? Like it is crazy how, like, it is funny, people make fun of podcasts a little bit these days. Like there's so many of them and stuff like that. But if they're done well and done right, it is like, there's a lot of work that goes into making these things good. And the best ones, there's more work, right? So your guys' one is very well produced and very well done.
Thank you.
So just to kind of like throw this in here. Sorry, sometimes I host podcasts, so I like sometimes have to be the like whatever. But we're talking about New Year planning, and I want to talk about that one because I also wanted to like brush up on it, and I'd love to hear your takes on it, Ty, because I'm trying to be like you one day. I wanna learn from you. You've done a ton of stuff, and I know that because you're in the middle of a work day and you are creating content, but you also have this, you keep on shaking your head like, but it's a successful construction company. So you get to juggle these things. You clearly are doing some things really well that you get to have the freedom in your day to do this stuff. So I just want to talk about what is your structure, and I want to share my structure for setting goals in the new year and what I do to make it more likely that I'll actually hit them. And I want to start with this quote, which is by James Clear. You do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. So as I was making notes for this, I was thinking, it's like set good goals, but like in the new year, it should also be like it should be important to how am I going to like make sure those goals legitimately get hit? So like, I'm not just thinking goals. I'm thinking how can I make systems around this big, like I want to grow 50% next year, which is a lot. I think it gets, it's like the bigger you get, 50% is actually like kind of crazy. So I'm excited to grow 50% this next year. What
Yeah,
are,
and
and I
it's possible.
want to like, invite the audience. What is your
Yeah.
big goal for this next year? If you haven't said it yet, it's time.
Yeah, no, that's the great question. And it's something, because time is something that we can't purchase, right? It's something that we can't buy back. It's something that will once it's gone, it's gone. And there's a lot of acronyms for the word time, things I must earn, things that I must endure, right? Um, so one of the things that I've tried to do, and believe me, this just like any process or system that you put in place, it always needs a tweak, right? But without it, you can't find the two driving factors. If it's a personnel thing, personally, or personnel, um, or if it's a system issue, right? So it identifies, and that's one of the importance of having a system and process put in place, or checks and balances, right? So you can measure, what can be documented, what is documented can be measured, and what can be measured can be scaled, right? And I think that's been one of our biggest things is putting systems and processes in place. And somebody that's listening right now might think, man, these guys are so far advanced and I don't know what my system and process is. There's always a system and process.
Mm.
Whether you intentionally put it in place or not, it's in there by default, because whatever your routine is your system.
What do
If it-
you track your numbers with
what do we
at
use?
the company? Like, what do you use on the back end? Like, I'm using 90.io and we track
Hmm.
our numbers there. Do you just use spreadsheets? And I would say, like, it's not even that crazy to think that if you have habits or goals for 2024, that you could track personal goals in a spreadsheet as well. I know it's kind of wild, but if you're going to
Absolutely.
be a high
Yeah.
performer, you might do things a little bit differently than other people do them. How do you guys track your
Yeah.
goals and your metrics?
Okay, so our finances and stuff, we use QuickBooks, and as time evolved and as QuickBooks evolved, we kept up with that, and the commercial version of QuickBooks that we have, unfortunately, no CRM will integrate with it, because it's beyond desktop, it's beyond mobile app, with the amount of users that we have in it. But what's cool about it is that we can see who's in it. Everybody has their own password to get in, so we know who's doing what, when they did it, or if they screwed it up, and what time they did it, and how we can fix it. Right. So
Yeah.
as things evolved, we've been able to keep up with things, and that's probably the biggest thing is keeping up with the times, and continuous growth. You have to remain teachable first and foremost. It's like if you bring somebody on, right, that you think is going to be a good fit, and they're bringing something to the table, right? Your company is going to excel only as far as their capabilities. If they are not willing to continue to keep growing and to educate themselves, um, professionally and personally, you're going to run into what's called the law of the lid, and you can apply the law of the lid to any aspect, whether it's a system or a process, the growth of the company on a micro or macro level, right? You're going to run into either a bottleneck or the law of the lid, and the company is only good as its leadership is willing to grow and learn, right? The moment that you stop growing and the moment that you stop learning, the company or personally is going to stop growing, right? So you have to continuously absorb good, positive, first and foremost, good and positive content, right? If you're listening to Fox News or CNN or whatever news outlet on those micro news outlets, that's at most times that's not pretty productive or positive information that you're consuming, right? So what I tend to do is listen to more of a micro news outlet, and that could be a social media, that could be podcast, that could be any form of social commerce that I choose to listen to today, and absorb that content, and then take the information that I'm absorbing from that and apply it into my life today.
But you
But
want to make sure that it's people that you want to be like. You
yeah.
think about, and that's tough thing. Like the other thing about content creation, and you know this,
Hmm.
and I know this, they let anyone do this. What the
Yeah.
heck?
I know, it's crazy. And that's the beautiful thing about this. Nobody said that I couldn't go buy a truck, put a ladder rack on it, and call myself a roofing company 17 years ago.
Yeah,
And thank God
exactly.
for that.
And no one
But
said I could like I every once in a while have said that like about small business. Like
Mhm.
apparently there's no rules because they let me do it and then I just went and started doing it. And it is wild that like they're like you have to have an LLC supposedly, but technically you can take money from somebody and then like provide a service. And there's very little rules. It feels like once you start doing it, it's crazy. You're like, shouldn't there? Am I allowed to do this? You know, just wild when you start a small
Yeah.
business, how that feels sometimes.
It is. It is wild, and there's a lot to learn and a lot to be said for that too. To the willingness to step outside your comfort zone, right? The willingness to suit up and show up every single day, and the willingness to put yourself out there and provide a service. What it doesn't matter what the service is, but to provide a service for somebody, and then the learning lessons along the way, whether it be the LLC portions of it, S corps, the insurances, workers' compensation, general liability, and with that, who knew that we would need insurance on our billboards, right? And you're probably thinking to yourself, why would you need insurance on your billboards? Well, how it was explained to me is what if one of those billboards, even though we don't own it, falls over and hits a car? And just because our name's on it, we could be drug into a lawsuit. And it's like, well, I never thought of anything like that before. And it's like, but we have those insurances. And through trial and error and experiences, you find these little weird things out. And unless you're in business for a long enough period of time, you probably won't experience weird shit like that. But that's why it's called insurance. And that's why you have it. So you don't ever have to see a courtroom.
That is crazy. Yeah, my dad, who by the way, not he didn't feed me with a silver spoon, but he is successful. When I was younger, he worked for a corporation and then he went out on his own when I was like 16, 17 or whatever. But they have a $20 million company now. So I sometimes get to like listen to what he says. He seems to be somewhat smart. He gets all the insurances. Like whatever insurance is, he's like very into it.
Yeah.
I want to throw out a couple of my New Year planning schedule stuff, and I hope this is
Do it.
useful to business owners and to individuals. The first one thing I want to say here is be okay making your goal aggressive. I like the book The 10X Rule by Grant Cardone. There's another really good book out right now. If you like that book and you've already read it, there's a book called 10X is Easier Than 2X by Dan Sullivan. And Dan Sullivan, you know, we think of all these very good business coaches out there. A lot of them were coached by a guy that was coached by Dan Sullivan. So it's kind of crazy. He's like an executive coach guy and he's very, very smart. He wrote Gap in the Game and Who Not How, which are both really good management books. And this recent one, 10X is Easier Than 2X, will challenge you and help you break down like how could I really 10X my life or 10X my company? And really, really good. And I think one thing that has to go along with that, Traction, which is like a business operating system, EOS, talks about how it's okay that you hit 80%. You set big goals that are uncomfortable, and then you do everything you possibly can to hit that. You take massive action, but then you're okay with hitting 80%. Now, hey, Tim, I was an A student. Well, that's your problem. No, you really want to be able to challenge yourself enough that you're not hitting every single goal. So my first principle of planning your new year goal, and I want you guys to set one during this podcast if you're listening to it. What is your real new year goal? If your 2024 goal, and be okay setting something that makes you uncomfortable. That's my first principle.
Yeah. No, I love that too. The only thing I would poke a hole in is, setting that big audacious hairy goal, right? That BHAG. But making it realistic. But I think it's a cop out. Like if I'm shooting for $10 million this year, but I'd be okay with 7, I think you're going to end up with probably 5. If you're not all in and you don't have your team all in, like, look, this is the mark. We're no exceptions. No cutting corners, no complacency, no comfortability. This is going to be super freaking uncomfortable. We're going for 10 mil, but you also have to have a roadmap, right? Being proactive, have a roadmap on how are we going to meet this? Okay. So our marketing budget is up. We need to hire 2 more salespeople. We got to get 2 more trucks on the road. We need to hire Chuck Toki to come in and train these guys, like whatever whatever
Yep.
that mission is, whatever that goal is you got to make it, yes, realistic, right? But you also have to be all in on it. Don't have like that cop out where it's like, I'm going to set this $50 million goal. And it's like you're third year in business.
Well, I would
You,
say this is like if you're looking at like backwards, you look at the last 2 years, and let's say it's a
mhm,
personal goal, and you found that you only did 50% of the goal, or like
mhm,
basically, I think measuring backwards is good here, where it's like
mhm.
last year we did 50% growth, and the year before that we did 50% growth, and to continue 50% growth would be really uncomfortable, but let's
Yeah.
set it 50%. It's actually like 70%, and then it was 60%, and we're going to try to hit 50, which is crazy. That is kind of what I'm saying. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
measure it backwards. Look at what your real growth was the year before that, and then last year. And then I want to say my number two suggestion here is identify new, I'm going to call them helper systems. So things like exactly what Ty is talking about. Who do I have to hire? Calendar invites. Like calendar invites counts as a helper system. If you have
Mhm.
like, okay, we're gonna have a weekly rhythm of meetings about this 10x goal or whatever it happens to be. New initiatives. Like I'm thinking like realistically, Ty, when did you start your New Year planning?
Phew, it was before the fourth quarter began.
That's
We
what I'm saying.
actually we
Yeah.
actually had a fourth quarter kickoff uh,
Yeah.
party for the company, and set a speech, set a couple goals for the entire company. Obviously, I had some personal goals and then leadership goals and stuff like that. But I want to circle back to something that you were talking about, like 10xing
I just
year
wanted to
over
know
year
that
over year.
people like Ty and I are months before the new year starting
Oh
this. And
yeah,
so
for sure. You have to, because there's things that you have to put in place before January 1.
yeah,
Right? If you want to be proactive on it, and if you want to start having it implemented by then, you should actually already have most of them implemented before then. And like I'm going to say marketing and SEOs. If you haven't done SEOs yet and you're planning on doing a whole new website design for January 1st, you've better have started that back in the second quarter for it to
sure.
be ready by
By the
January
way,
1st. And again, that
most contractors do not. They're going to all start
I know.
now, and that's
Yeah.
honestly partly
And
why
that's
I'm on
why
this.
right.
But ultimately, next year, it's kind of noting like every year, and it's crazy, but every year your New Year planning should kind of get earlier because
Hmm.
I'm realizing I have to set goals soon enough, my personal goals, so that they can be within the company goals. So like for me, it's November. And then December, I need to be able to have the pre-meeting to the meeting with our coach so that we kind of define what we want. And then we have the coach one, and then we have the other leaders meeting, and then we have the full team kickoff. So there's like
Hmm.
a meeting before the meeting, before the meeting, before the meeting. And that sounds crazy and kind of annoying and corporate-y. But really, what it comes down to is I want to define where I'm going. And
Yeah.
so if I have to have a pre-meeting to the pre-meeting to the pre-meeting to make sure I am setting my intention, and sometimes the pre-meeting is just me. And then I
Yeah.
just add like my executive leaders and then the other
Yeah.
leaders and
No, I love that, because first and foremost, where a lot of businesses struggle is communication, first and foremost. Okay. So by you having meetings is a form of communication. The other thing is too, it takes someone 7 times before they really start to believe what you're saying, or for it to absorb. Right. Like the first 3 times they're kind of like, yeah, we kind of heard this before. By the fourth time, they're like, oh, okay. I think he might be serious by like the fifth, sixth and seventh time. Sometimes you don't quite articulate that message right the first 4 times, or it doesn't quite start making sense. So you have to be, and for me, and I'm saying this and why this is so important, because sometimes I'm afraid that I repeat myself, especially in our meetings. But it's kind of like once when I heard that, it's kind of like, and I can see sometimes the light bulb goes off early here. There's early adopters, there's late adopters, there's the whole bell curve that they talk about, right? So it's like you have to, especially if you have more than 5 people in that meeting. If it's a group of 25 people, you're gonna have early adopters, you're gonna have late adopters, and then there's people that probably aren't even adopting anything. Right. But over time you can kind of sift those kind of people out. But the communication and having meetings and having different meetings with different groups of departments, or we call them, we're going to call them silos,
Yeah.
here this coming years, because we have big growth expansions too. But having said that, I want to go back to where you're talking about 10xing year over year over year over year. This is the thing. After you're in business for a while, you have to go through what I call a correction year, right? When you're in continuous expansion and growth mode, and you're moving 100 miles an hour, you tend to just kind of run around and put band-aids on stuff, because you don't necessarily know who needs to be on the seat, in the seat, on the bus, and who do we need to hire? Do we have too many people? Do we have enough tools? Do they have the proper tools? Were they properly educated? All of these things, right? It's called expenditures. You acquire all of these expenditures, and not really. And I'm not saying that they're not paying attention to the net profit, but a lot of people don't know that you can do $10 million in business and have the same amount of people to make it to 15 without having any stress, any more worry or stress on their business.
Mm.
Okay. As long as they are led correctly, and that message has been articulated in a good way, that they know exactly what their job is and the mission that they're trying to accomplish. But to get back to the correction year, it's okay to have a correction year and focus more on net profit and not just
Oh,
revenue that comes in the doors.
oh,
Because
I
the
would.
big
Oh,
the
yeah.
big flex, right? Like that. Let's have the flex year where we have the correction, right? Where we can look back before January 1st, at the beginning, at the end, at the middle of the third quarter, and be like, okay, this year was kind of a shit show, but our gross revenue looks extremely well, but our net profit isn't where it should be. Why did I only make $1 million on $10 million? And you're
Yeah.
like, man, that was a lot of work for that. Right.
Yeah.
And it's because you went through the growth, you went through the expansions, which is great, because that's the American dream. That's the beautiful thing about America, is
I
that
do,
we talked about it earlier.
I do
Right.
think that, like, as much as you can make this, I like been thinking about gross profit a lot lately, because I think for some reason it's almost easier to control gross profits. Like, I mean, in our business, excuse me, I'm focused on trying to get better with gross profit, and I
Okay.
know net profit is really good. You kind of got to know all the leading, and that's actually my next one, is leading and lagging indicators.
Yeah.
A leading indicator in my situation would be gross profit. If gross profit is healthy,
Hmm.
if it's
Of
going
course,
up
it
over,
has to be. Of course, gross profit has to be healthy, but gross profit should be your cost of goods. Those are your fixed expenses
yeah,
for the most part. Like every single month, we have labor cost, and we have material cost, and
yeah,
that's what creates basically our gross profit. But then everything underneath it is where the meat and potatoes really are. I call that the gray area, where a lot of people don't pay attention to that
yeah,
much. And that's the ink in the printers, that's the electric bills, that's workers' comp, that's all your insurances, that's your fuel, that's everything else that actually chews up that gross profit, that
yeah.
with a tweak here and there can make a huge difference on your bottom line. And there's so much
Part of
fluff
my
in
thing
there.
is so I'm getting a president in place in my company that's not me, basically. And do you have somebody like that, or are you kind of the, like, you are always CEO president guy? Are you? I'm
We're
trying to get
actually
something.
searching. We're actually searching for a COO. We've
Okay.
been looking for somebody. They got to be a good fit for the company. But I do have a financial controller and a CFO.
I'm trying to
So
get that person, like, incentivized against gross profit, because my thing is, and you're probably this way too. I like spending on
mhm,
marketing and stuff, and
mhm,
like fun
yeah.
stuff. And like, I also feel like to grow the company, you have to have this experimental, like, you kind of have to have a loose, to grow a company. You have to have a loose attachment to net profit, right? It's kind of like, that's how it feels to me sometimes. At least it feels like if I got like really into it and I wanted 7 instead, or like 10 instead of 7 net profit or
Mhm.
whatever, that I would have to like kind of cut some of my like big growth plans. And that's how it feels sometimes. I'm curious how it feels to you.
I mean, not yes and no. Yes and no. Where we can make a lot of ground up is in our cost of goods. We can make up a lot of ground there and make sure that our gross profit is healthy, which then in turn gives us more to play with on our marketing budget. But I found what has helped, because we've done the fishnet approach with marketing, where really I didn't set a limit. I mean, I kept an eye on it to make sure that it never exceeded 5 to 10%
Yeah.
of our gross profit, not net
10%
profit, but our
is a
gross
lot
profit.
for a construction company. Like
Yeah,
you're
it
doing,
really is.
I
Right. Yeah. And when you get to a certain point, I mean, what's $10 million worth of marketing going to do for you? I mean, you can actually start over marketing yourself, and which may be a good problem. And most people are like, I've never heard of such thing. Well,
disagree. I'm
trust
just
me.
kidding.
Trust
Yeah.
me. What the 5 mile famous? Yes, you need to be 5,000 mile famous
Yeah.
when you start to look at different demographics and footprints and stuff like that. And of course, your budget will grow. When you grow, you grow. And so there's two ways that you can look at this. Especially, it's like, okay, so we can spend 5% on last year's numbers, or we can spend 5% on our projected numbers. And that's
Yeah.
something that the CEO or the CFO or the owner of the company can make that projection. So if I want to do $10 million in revenue next year, then our budget's going to be $1 million. But that's one thing to come up with that number. What are you going to spend it on where you can get your best ROI? I think that's probably the biggest, more that if it's not, it should be the biggest question that an entrepreneur or a marketing or director or whatever within the organization, that should be their biggest question. Not how much do we have to spend, but what are we going to spend it on to get the biggest bang for our
Yeah.
buck?
Yeah, because there's things where you can spend, like, for instance, I was just talking to a marketing manager yesterday, and she was talking about, and they're commercial. So it's like, who cares? You know what I mean? Like, no offense, but marketing is kind of soft for commercial construction companies. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's basically business development. They're trying to get in as many conversations with the right people, many dinners, gifting, all this events. But the event side is where you can spend, it's like easy to spend. They're at like 150 million or something. And it's like, it's kind of easy to spend 10% or 5% of that if you just do all the events and take the premium sponsor. Events is the big one where it's kind of like easy, because they'll just, it's like different industries. They'll be like 20K for this, whatever. And it's like, dang, dude, it like can start to spend kind of quickly if you're going that
Mm-hmm.
route. Um,
Absolutely.
but I agree 100%. Making sure, and I like the word scrappy.
Mm-hmm.
We're scrappy in a lot of things. I know that you guys have a big production and stuff like that, but like there's other things that you can do that are scrappy. I'm trying to take up as much attention as I possibly can within my
Mm-hmm.
limited resources. And realistically, they're not that limited at this point. I spend 10% of what I believe I want to grow to this next year. A reasonable,
Mm-hmm.
aggressive goal. I spend 10% of that. And I think construction companies should spend 5% of that on average. Like
Yeah.
that's what I think. But I think you should set it based on the growth where you're going. I want to say one more of my 3 principles on goal setting. We talked about leading and lagging indicators,
Yes.
habits and systems to hit the goals. If you've ever read the 12-week year, it's so
No,
good.
I'm gonna
You
have to.
get the goal out on paper and you write the thing that if you did it every single week, you'd hit that goal, and then you track like
Mhm.
you hit it or not. So it's the leading indicator is the weekly habit, and then the lagging indicator is the like quarterly goal. He likes quarters, and if you're an individual, not a company, I still believe quarters. Like basically, that's the whole premise of the book. You don't even have to read it if you just understand this. Setting quarterly goals for yourself as an individual will speed up your goals instead of thinking this year. So I'm literally not going to, okay, fine. I set a big yearly goal, but most of my goals are going to be quarterly goals. And I'm going to
Mhm.
set them like, what if it was a year? Like I'm going to try to get a year's worth of stuff done in one quarter. And that's why I'm going to beat you. No, I'm
Mhm.
saying to
Yeah.
my competitor watching me, that's why I'm going to beat you, is because I'm going to get a year's worth of stuff done in one quarter. And I mean that like as an individual, that can be a really compelling way to think, to get more
Yeah.
done. And then also a year is too long. It's too long of a period. No offense. Like if you set big goals, all your goals are yearly, you're going to trail off around month 5 and you're not going to like really hit them. So do 3-month goals and make it all about a 3-month kind of like digestible chunk.
Well, it makes 100% sense because I don't like waiting too long either to get any data or information or feedback. I don't want to wait too long either to look for the results in anything. So I think you're 100% accurate. The leading first and foremost, I got to say this real quick. This has probably been one of the easiest podcasts I've ever did because Tim, you're kind of asking questions and then answering them yourself. So I'm just kind of like I'm
I
just
know
going with
that
the flow here. No, this is
I
great.
know that
I love it.
we're only like got 20 minutes left, so I'm trying to
I
make
love
sure
it.
I hit. I
Dude, I love
apologize.
it. No,
Yeah.
no, no. I love it. I
I know
love it.
you're smarter than me on this stuff. I just like definitely I
No.
was like preparing for this and making sure that I brought value to both the business owner and the individuals.
Yeah. So listen, one of my goals, especially for this podcast, is to talk less, listen better, and ask better questions. So I don't have to talk that much. So
Yeah.
and I think that's what an interview should be. Not that we won't have conversation, but it's not about me. This is about you and what you're bringing to it because you're the expertise in your area. I'm not. I'm not a marketing director. I'm not a website design guy. I'm not a marketing or branding guy. Do I know enough to be dangerous with all those things? Yeah. Do I love marketing? Of course I do. I think we're no longer a roofing business that does marketing. We are a marketing company that does roofing, right? And that's the mindset you need to have going into 2024, right?
I love
Um,
it.
because that's what it is. You need to market yourself. Your team needs to be your brand. They're the ones that need to be out there screaming from the rooftops that I love working for this place, that we provide a lot of value for homeowners and those things. And that's where this starts. Right. And that's one of the things that I've learned over the years, right? Yes, marketing's great, branding's great, but most importantly, if you're starting out in business, start focusing on what relationships you can build with people, whether it be distribution, manufacturing, but most importantly, relationships from clients, right? It's like realtors, real estate offices, investors. Those people are who we have become today because of their network, because of that partnership and that network that I've created with real estate firms, with investors and people like that. And then them referring us to their network of people, right? And we've talked about this before. Our best form of marketing can be providing value, trustworthiness, and transparency has been our best marketing when it comes to referral base, due to creating the network has then become our net worth today.
Yeah.
Yes,
I love
branding,
that.
all of those things that we do is just another feather in the cap and another touch point and brand awareness.
I feel like you're saying a very big, important marketing principle, and I'm just going to restate it a different way.
Do
You're
it.
marketing for referrals. Like, and I think that that's a really good clarification. One, you are no matter what, if you're a roofing company or whatever you are a marketing company. Client acquisition is pretty much goal number one. It's got to be up there at least, right? Customer acquisition. And then two, if you could start marketing for referrals instead of individual leads, your marketing will go farther. So like every time you put something out that's going to positively affect your, and social media is great for this, your realtor is more likely to refer you. There's 10 people, there's 20 people listening to this that I can see just on Facebook. What's up, David Bruno, Laura Hirschlin, Deandra Nicole from Roofle. What's up? She just said, I just started a whole roadmap for 2024 personal and work goals. She also said, somebody said that you should definitely do it on noon on Wednesdays, which I think is fun. I do think you're going to get a different audience. I think it's going to be sweet. I think that when you market in such a way that other people want to refer your business, and social media can be a huge piece of that, your marketing is going to go so much further. I see so many roofing companies. I'm just going to give one big mistake that I see. You're pitching every time. You're posting something and saying, hire us. Here's our phone number. If you find yourself putting your phone number in your Facebook post, I'm not saying that that's terrible, but are you pitching more than once a week? It's really like it's the jab, 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 right hook strategy from Gary V, who just says, give value, give value, give value. And then you can ask every once in a while. But the point is like, how can you market in such a way that other people want to refer you? Insurance agents, realtors, etc., is a really good one for roofers. I'm going to sneak one of my New Year planning tips in here. Well, Ty's texting.
No,
4.
I was taking notes.
Oh, okay. Get your
Yeah.
spouse on board. So on your goals, get your spouse on board or your partner or whoever. Make sure everyone on your team is bought in as early as possible. So who is your executive team? And if you're a small business, maybe you don't think that way yet, but who's your executive team? Who's the one person on your team that really needs to be bought in to make this happen? Who do you need to be who is going to be the biggest people that are going to make or break this goal? Get them on board. I think on personal goals, that's spouse. It might be your boss. It might be somebody that you're trying to like bring, hey, this is what I'm trying to do. If I hit these goals in 2024, would I be able to get this, whatever bonus or whatever it happens to be? You can try to work with them. If you tap into what they want, and this goes for spouse too, if you tap into what they want, and then you set the goals with them, you're much more likely to like hit it, right? Because if our spouse is kind of like against our goal or doesn't understand why we're working on a Tuesday night or whatever it happens, Wednesday nights, hopefully we got those back now, maybe. And if they're bought in though, she was cool with it, right? Your partner was cool with you doing this every Wednesday night because she knew there was a bigger purpose and she was part of probably some of the goals that you were trying to set. So to me, it's about getting everybody on board, whether that's your
100%.
team or your spouse.
100%. Such a great topic there too. It's it definitely makes life a lot easier if your significant other is bought in and you sold them on the idea or whatever, or they're more encouraging of whatever that is. And Vic and I recently had a conversation about, the work-life blend and things like that, and making sure that you are emotionally present when you need to be emotionally present. And how are we going to do that? And how can we kill 3 birds with 1 stone? Sometimes in some instances, and that could be going for a walk with your significant other, getting your workout in, taking the dogs with you, picking nights of the week and sharing a calendar with them, like date nights Tuesday night for Jana and I. Come hell or high water, one time I've missed it in the past couple of months that we started back to this because years ago our date night used to be Wednesday nights, and unfortunately behind the ToolBelt has held my family, myself, and our company hostage Wednesday nights, right? Vic's family, Chris Baker, and then whoever else has helped us along the way. Mike Ippy, you know what I mean? So now, and that's part of the reason why we decided to do it during the normal business hours, because one, I'm fresh. I don't have to catch my 5th wind, not get home till 9:30. You know what I mean? And then get in bed and kiss Jan on the forehead and go to bed and then feel like shit on Thursdays. And we've done that. We have done that for 4 straight solid years. And it's like, okay, we've gained enough audience and our purpose is different today too. Things change, things evolve, things grow, things shrink, expansion, contraction, whatever the case might be. But including your spouse is very, very important, right?
And you
knowing each other.
Like you're talking about kissing Jana on the cheek or whatever. Like if you have her on board, there's more emotion involved. There's more like, so if part of yours is better work-life balance or whatever, like it's good to have both, right? We got the revenue, let's do crazy revenue stuff. And then we've got like, I need better work-life balance. How could I delegate some of this? If you have emotion in it, and one of the ways, this is my last one. So I've got it all, I've said all my points, which is to make it visual and put it on the wall. And I think there's a simplification. Like you don't want to, like I've had 20 goals for the new year before. I've got 3 that I've got up on my wall next to my Peloton. So when I go down there and work out, hey, I've got posters. I'll share them with you if I can remember them. One's a new bathroom remodel. And so I have I've got something from Pinterest, put it up on the wall. That's like the bathroom I want. I got one that's me speaking at a high school with the client about the trades because I want to get out the word about how important the trades are and that they're anchored and you don't have to go in crazy college debt to join the trades. So I want to speak there. So I made a picture of me and this person. I photoshopped my face onto somebody speaking in front of a high school or whatever. And I want to speak with the client sometime in 2024. And then what is my last one? Oh my God, I totally forgot. Oh, 5-person sales and marketing team. So that one goes to support my revenue goal. So but I like this idea. How could you print out more stuff and put it on the wall, both at your job? How can we get the goal up on the wall? Maybe it's that thermometer. Nothing wrong with the classic thermometer goal up on the whiteboard, right?
Right.
And then how can I get like the personal vision? I dare you. I'm going to dare the audience to take 3 of their biggest personal goals, come up with a visual for them, and print them gigantic at FedEx and put them up on the wall at your house or in your closet to remind you every time for 2024. These are the 3 big things I'm going to try to do. And I just got mine done for 2023. So I'm excited and it just reminds you visually of what you're trying to accomplish. So put it
I
up.
love that. I love that. I love that. And a lot of it's just going back to the work-life blend. I call it work-life blend. The balance thing kind of scares me, when you use the word
Oh, it's scary.
balance, right?
Yeah.
Like
I'm just
balance.
saying that could be one of yours. I don't actually have it.
Yeah.
So I'm not
Yeah.
saying
Work-life
do it.
blend. And that's
I like
kind of what I
work-life.
meant by like killing 3 birds with one stone. Like Jana used to ride around with me to go look at houses, right? When someone needed a roof or they needed windows and stuff like that. I mean, there's a way that you can blend it together. Work life blend, right? Take your kids to work, to whatever the case. But there are times that need to be set aside for that intentional, emotionally there moments, especially when it comes to your family and or at work. Right. Sometimes you just need to close the door and that's where time blocks come into play and living in your calendar, not just personal, not just professionally, but also personally sharing your calendar with your spouse or significant other, right? So they can kind of see what your day is like. Because if they're not in the now, like where you're at, because then if they see I had 10 meetings today, they're already going to know that I'm going to be shot when I get home. They know what to expect when I walk in the door. Right. But if I also have them included on the calendar, like date night or dentist appointments, haircuts, whatever, vacations, things like that, sitting down with your spouse and making goals of like, okay, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, we're going to walk and we're going to take the dogs with us. Right. So now you're killing 3 birds with one stone. Right. You're getting the dogs out of the house, you're exercising, and you're spending quality time with your significant other. Right. And if the dogs are up all night long, and I'm saying this on behalf of us, Janet and I should probably do this too, because Penny, when I get home, Penny is off. We got this miniature Boston Terrier. It's about this big. Her name's Penny. And we should probably start taking her for a walk at night because she would be tired. So then I would get a better night's sleep. I would get a better night's sleep, not just because of that, but because I went out and got some fresh air. I exercised and all of those things, so if we can think, not maybe so selfishly, but think more, with togetherness of our spouses, our families. I intentionally get up. Rocket goes to school earlier today. I don't know how many over the years, how many basketball games I've missed, first days of school, teacher parent conferences, all of them, every single one of them for entire school years. Okay. So most recently this school year, Rocket was accepted into Votech, which was pretty cool. He's the first one to be picked up on the bus, which means that at 6:15, his school bus is picking him up. Well, typically I was walking out the door at 4:30 in the morning because I was of the mentality that I need to be the first one at the office and the last one to leave. That was great for the first 10 years. You know what I'm saying? But that bled into the first 12 years, first 13 years. It's like, okay, I set the example. Now people are getting there at 4:15, and I am not going to get up any earlier because I don't have to anymore because I've surrounded myself around the right people. Okay. Smarter than me in a whole lot of areas. So what I've done was I decided, I'm going to change up my morning routine. Now I read 2 books in the morning. I spend a little time at the house. I drink my 1 cup of coffee before I leave the house, and I see Rocket before he goes to school. And I've never done that. But if I don't do anything else in the morning, I don't care if I don't read my 2 books. I don't care if I drink that 1 cup of coffee, as long as I get to see him leave that leave out the door and catch the school bus. Mission completed, victory, game over. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But I count all kinds and I stack all kinds of wins in the morning. Some of them might be very simple.
Like
Is me opening my eyes is victory number one. Me putting my feet on the floor and sucking another sober breath and thanking him. Right there is like 3 wins right there. I walk over to the bathroom. I do my business. I start my cup of coffee. I read my 2 books. 2 more victories. I got to talk with Rocket, even if it was just, "Hey, I love you. Have a great day. I'll see you in a few hours." Right?
Mhm.
Letting him
I
know
love
that,
this
hey,
idea of win stacking and victory stacking. I like that a lot because
what
that
what
is the
I'm
thing.
doing is I'm armoring myself. I don't even look at my phone anymore in the morning. Fuck the
Yeah,
emails, screw text messages. All that stuff can wait till I get here. There's enough people in place, and if it's an emergency, call 911. Okay.
yeah.
So if I can't stay away from my phone for that long, okay, and I do fail at times when, especially when it comes to the phone thing, but all of those other things that I mentioned up until picking my phone up, I do 100% every single day. I'm
Mm,
arming and I'm preparing myself mentally and physically, preparing myself. I crossed all my T's, dotted all my I's. Now I can go out into the world, right, and do whatever it is that I need to do. Lead the people, take on adversity, create new budgets, come up with a new plan, do all of these things because I got everything squared away at home. I spend that intentional time with Jana. Her dad's up, so I get to see him in the morning until he goes back to Florida, right? So I made my rounds. I'm emotionally here.
mm.
Whew, you know what I mean? Did my thing, right? And now I can go off to work and feel whole. When I walk out the door in the morning, it's like mission accomplished, dude. I just stacked 10 wins. Let's go. Let's go stack
I
20
love
more.
that. This is so good. I love see this is what even though I wanted to get through my 5 points, which I did now, I obviously I want to hear about what you're doing because you're just I appreciate your wisdom. And as just a business an entrepreneur, any entrepreneur that can stay in business. How long have you guys been in business?
July 17th, 2008.
So we're talking 20, it's almost 20 or sorry, 16 years or something.
Yeah,
It's
almost
almost
16 years. Yeah, we just
it's
celebrated
just
this. Yeah.
it's crazy. I mean, anybody that can stay in business longer than 10 years and then, make decent revenue. It's just I want to learn. I want to learn from
Yeah.
wisdom. I want to learn from the wisdom of other I'm just going to say men, like men in the industry. I want to learn
Mhm.
from women too, but like the point is like we have our own unique battles, just like you have your own unique battles. Like
Yeah.
I look up to and I want to hear and I want to try to soak up the wisdom. So excuse me if I talked a little bit too much this one.
No, no, no. I loved it. This was the best podcast ever because I didn't have to come up with any questions. Thank you for that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's
You
the
came prepared. You were the best prepared guest, or should I say co-host? I don't even know, but it was awesome. You
yeah,
know what I mean? No, it's always great. Tim, same here. That's the
yeah.
thing. There's nothing that I don't know everything, and I know that, and I remain teachable on a daily basis. Right. So I hear things, I pick things up. Everything that I mentioned 2 minutes ago, I wish I would have came up myself. I had to hear it someplace else. I had to try it. There's a lot of failures. I've had more failures than successes in my life, whether it be in relationships, whether it be businesses, whether it be whatever, right? You know what I mean? But what I have done is I've learned that this didn't happen to me, it happened for me. And if I
Mm,
can think about what good is going to come out of this situation, or how can we improve ourselves from this situation, no matter how horrible it is, there is always something that is going to come out of it that is positive. So I try not to get hemmed up in the shit that's not going to affect me 5 days from now. So I'm not going
mm,
to waste 5 minutes on it. Now, am I perfect at that? No, not all the time am I perfect at that, but it comes with time because I am a neurotic mess. I am a very high driven person. I am very competitive. Do I need to be put in check? Of course I do, but that's where Jana comes into play.
mm.
That's where mentoring comes into play. That's where my coach comes into play. When I bounce this big hairy audacious goal off of him and he's like, dude, that is fucking crazy. And it's like, tell me I can't do it. Tell me I
Yeah,
can't do it.
exactly.
Please. If
And
you,
once you start stacking wins, once you start whacking wins, man. Well,
yeah,
that's why this is live. Once you start stacking wins, I mean, it's kind of like it's crazy what you've done. You know what I mean? Like, look back, just look back. Don't just look forward to this next year. Look back. How
for sure.
crazy! How crazy is it? This
Mhm.
last 3 years, what you've done. How crazy is it? Write down those things. That's going to be my last little call to action for this. Write down how crazy is it that you did these things, and make a list of your wins from this, the biggest wins from this last 3 years. And then maybe that will help you set bigger and better goals, because look what you've done already. It's kind of crazy. Look how far you've come. I think that that's a good vibe going to the new year too.
Love that. That's a great way to end this podcast. Yeah, I mean, don't forget to go back and review and pat yourself on the back, even though you feel like you haven't made it that far in the past 12, 24, 36 months. Unfortunately, we're the last ones to see it, but everyone else around us has seen the exponential growth in us, whether it be personally, financially, professionally, whatever the case might be. Just know that don't quit 5 minutes before the miracle happens. And if you have a goal, you have dreams, you have aspirations, man, don't forget to ask for help and stop thinking about how am I going to do all of this, and find the who, just like you talked about earlier, Tim.
Yeah. Who, not how, baby. And
That's right.
hey, thank you for having me on. I'll secret. I love New Year vibes for some reason. I just love them. I just feel like it's such a good feeling to set new stuff. And even if I'm looking back and I didn't hit a goal or something or whatever, like, just to analyze why didn't I hit a goal? And it's just fun to just try to set better goals for the next year and this next quarter. So that's the other one, 3-month goals. All right. Thank you,
Awesome.
man. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Don't forget to like, love, subscribe. We are on all of your favorite listening or watching platforms. Thank you, guys. We will see you next week for episode 209 of Behind the Tool Belt. Have a great day.
See ya.